If you were to walk into a town after a hurricane had been, you'd probably see lots of debris, including branches and trees that had snapped off. What you'd be less likely to see, though, would be the branches of a palm tree, and that's because they're filled with a spongy tissue which enables them to flex when the storm comes. Autistic children are typically very inflexible, but it means that life can be so much more difficult for them. And so there is good reason for us to develop flexibility in them to the degree that they are able. And in the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you 10 reasons why we should be developing flexible thinking. I'm Linda Phillips, speech and language therapist and founder of Parenting Autism, where we teach parents of young autistic children key skills to help improve their communication and social interaction skills. So what are those reasons for developing flexible thinking? First of all, friendships and relationships. If a child goes onto the playground, for example, and they have in their mind that they want to play pirates, but when they get to the playground, their friends want to play ball, if they cannot flex and change their mind to suit the rest of the group, they are going to have difficulty. So flexible thinking is very necessary for friendships and for relationships. Number 2, classroom learning. When a child is in the classroom, he or she needs to be able to tune out of what he is focused on and tune into what the teacher is saying and learn from the teacher. And then if the teacher has a different idea from his or her idea, he needs to be able to be flexible to accommodate that new idea. So flexible thinking is very necessary for classroom learning. Number 3, conversation. Conversations are a bit like a chess match. I move, you move, and then my next move depends on your move. That's why scripts don't work, and it's why children often have monologues, because they have difficulty with this idea of a dialogue where you actually have to be flexible for it to happen. Number 4, choices and decisions. When it comes to making choices, you need flexible thinking to be able to decide whether the benefits of A are better or worse than the benefits of B. And the same for decision making. Decision making means I have to be able to think of alternatives. So flexible thinking is necessary just for simple choices and decisions, which we have to do all the time in life. Number 5 is predicting consequences. Now actually we are doing this constantly throughout the day, and it enables us to self-monitor, to change our behavior depending on the expected consequence. But a child who cannot do that can get themselves into some very sticky situations. So they might climb up onto a high wall or jump out of a tree because they are not predicting what the consequence of those actions will be. So flexible thinking is necessary to be able to predict consequences, and predicting consequences is necessary to monitor the way that we behave in this world. The next one, number 6, is problem solving. Now again, problem solving requires flexible thinking, because you have to be able to let go of plan A and think, how can I solve the problem that I am having and create a new plan? But this requires flexible thinking, and it's why autistic children often get stuck. So if the toys that the child wants are not available because somebody else is playing with them, that child might get very upset because they cannot think of another alternative. They can't come up with a solution in their own minds as to how to deal with the problem they are experiencing. Number 7 is adapting. So adapting means changing your behavior because there is something going on in your environment that requires that. But changing your behavior means flexible thinking. So a child might, for example, want to go outside and play in the garden, but discover that it's raining. Well, that requires you to adapt, perhaps to think, oh well, I'll play inside instead. But a child who lacks flexible thinking may not be able to do that and get very stuck because plan A is not happening. Number 8, prioritizing. This applies often to older children who bring home lots of pieces of homework. Now, a rigid thinker would put out the homework and just go from step 1 to step 10, going through all the homework in a logical sequence. But what if there's too much homework to do? And the required response there would be to think, well, what's due in tomorrow? Let me focus on those. Let's prioritize those 3 pieces of homework. If you're a rigid thinker, you wouldn't be able to do that. So again, flexible thinking is necessary for prioritizing. Number 9, negotiating and compromising. Well, an awful lot of flexible thinking is required there, because you may have plan A and then somebody else has plan B, and negotiating or compromising means that you have to come up with plan C based on plan A and plan B. So a lot of flexible thinking is required, which is why autistic children often have difficulty compromising when it comes to it. And number 10 is handling change and uncertainty. Just by being alive, we are going to encounter change and uncertainty in everyday life. And it's that change, that uncertainty, that often causes a huge amount of stress for autistic children. So you need flexible thinking to be able to think it's okay to have something uncertain. It's okay that this is changing. But autistic children will often get stuck because they cannot do that. So there you have it, 10 really good reasons why we need to develop flexible thinking. We need to encourage children to move in that direction. It doesn't mean that we get rid of their routines or we get rid of the predictability and the order that they need, but it does mean that alongside those routines, we are encouraging flexible thinking. Thank you for watching this video. Now please tell me in the comments something that you do to encourage flexible thinking in your child. And if you enjoyed this video, would you do me a favor? Would you share it on your social media so that other parents can hear this message? To thank you for doing so, I'd like to give you a free gift which you can claim at www.parentingautismcoach.com.